women have all the power. Men have just convinced them they don't.
Woo!
That is the world we live in. Without them, none of this exists. They're the most powerful beings in this world. But they have been misled to forget that.
When you grow up in an environment where you don't feel in control, you spend your whole life trying to create that control for yourself. And control is masculine.
The world needs women to bring color to this life, to make it loving, to make it fun, to make it enjoyable, to make it even worthwhile. Because I can't even imagine a world with just men. It would be the most pointless world in the world. And I can't imagine a world without men. I don't see any structure, anything really building or improving that way. It'll be a very flowy place, but there is no assertiveness there.
And you also should not want to win someone over as a woman. No, the man's trying to win you over, baby. You are not trying to win someone over. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to earn. You simply show up and you be, and you choose. Do you like the man? That's the question you need to be asking yourself. Welcome back to Listen Before Love. We are so excited to have you back for episode 4. And today I really want to dive into one of our favorite topics, which is feminine and masculine energy.
Oof. Let's get into it.
This is a hot topic on the walks, on my Twitter, and we've sprinkled some little notes about it through our other episodes, but I really want to focus on what this energy is, what it feels like, and how important it is in dating. So let's just set the foundation. What is masculine energy? I like to see masculine energy as doing. So anything that you are doing in a relationship dynamic, whether that is planning, organizing, making sure that everything's on track, following up, sending the texts, all of that, which is a fantastic energy to have because it keeps the ball moving forward down the field, is masculine energy. Now, feminine energy is all about being. It is about trust. It is about surrender. It is about how you are showing up in the world, doing absolutely nothing. You are completely in your own energy. You are worthy just as you are. And one phrase that I love is that masculinity has to be earned and femininity is meant to be protected. And that is a really good all-encompassing phrase for what these energies feel like. So that masculine energy is about that forward motion. And feminine energy is about relaxing into the beautiful container that's built brick by brick by the masculine energy. Now that we've talked about what that is, I want to bring it to life a little bit in Cam and my dynamic, because I think sometimes when we hear these energies, you think to yourself, well, is that like going back to the 1950s and reducing men and women to very specific energies that only one person can have? Not at all. Every single person on earth has masculine and feminine energy within them. It is not to say that feminine energy is women and masculine energy is men. That is not what I'm saying at all. Every person has an interplay. If you've ever seen the yin and yang sign, both the black and the white of that sign, it takes both energies moving in motion, in fluid flow, in order to make up one whole human being, one whole circle. And that's exactly what those energies feel like. Now, balanced energies of masculine and feminine, which I think Cam and I try to embody, we try to strive towards, we try to keep that flow in balance, is harder to do these days than ever before because we are living in a very heavily masculine world. We are living in the masculine paradigm right now, where if you look out around into society, what do people value the most? What everyone is doing, what they are earning, what they have achieved, their success. That is how our current world in 2024 is viewing what's most valuable. So what does that mean for the feminine energy? That means that we are way out of balance. Both men and women. This is not just me saying it towards women, but I do think it affects women more because that is our natural state that we need to fall back into, surrender into, and we need to return too. We need to learn how to let go of the masculine energies of control and sink back into these beautiful flowing energies of sitting, relaxing, knowing that I am worthy and I am enough just as I am right in this moment, that I am loved. I don't need to fight for anything. I don't have to earn anyone's love. I don't have to prove myself to anyone. I am worthy because I am. All of those are feminine mantras that both men and women can benefit from. Now, I'll pass it to Cam just to say a little something, whatever comes to his mind on how do you feel about what I just said? What stood out to you the most?
I completely agree. I think it's one thing very important to keep in mind is that it's all spectrum. We all have a bit of masculine energy and feminine energy within us. And it's just finding a part on that spectrum that feels most aligned for us. Sadly, in the world that we live in, you said it's a very masculine world. I agree to some extent. In a man's world, it can often feel as if we've been overly feminized recently. And so I believe that a lot of women are out of place, having to be more masculine than they like to be. And a lot of men are out of their place, being more feminine than they like to be. And there are many different reasons why it's taking place, but we are here to understand that both are necessary.
Yeah.
I believe the world needs men to build it, and the world needs women to make it worth living in. The world needs women to bring color to this life, to make it loving, to make it fun, to make it enjoyable, to make it even worthwhile. Because I can't even imagine a world with just men. It would be the most pointless world in the world. And I can't imagine a world without men. I don't see any structure, anything really building or improving that way. It'll be a very flowy place, but there is no assertiveness there. What may be needed when it comes to the masculinity. But yeah, I think it's a dynamic that I think everyone should learn about. And I think if we were in touch with both our masculine and feminine side, we'd be able to, especially as a man, build and have the strength in areas that we know are needed for ourselves and our families and those who we care for, while also having the more feminine side of being able to connect deeply with our families and our loved ones. Because what I see happen often is on different sides of the spectrum where either the men are so masculine, so brute force that they feel like a brick wall to talk to. And yeah, that's great. You'll find something to pay the bills and support your family and do all these things. But your wife and your kids are afraid to come to you for advice or afraid to come to you just to hold them when they're going through a hard time. That is too far on one spectrum. And I think as men, especially nowadays, we're so multifaceted that we can be the best of both worlds for everyone and everything. And I do see a group, I see a movement beginning of men really understanding that and seeing that we can have strength and vulnerability. We can have strength and compassion. And I just do think it's much needed though, because I think that's a huge problem with a lot of relationship dynamics we're in. People are living out of place when it comes to their masculine and feminine energy, and therefore they're not attracting their true person because they're wanting someone that would fit their ideal balance, but they themselves aren't balanced yet, therefore they can't attract that yet.
Absolutely. And I think I love what you said about how, from my perspective, we're living in a more masculine world. I think that women are more masculine, taking on more masculine energy than ever before. And this is in terms of going to work. This is pushing your projects forward. This is doing everything that you can to make more money, to get a promotion, to take care of yourself. I say this as a woman who spent almost my entire life in my masculine energy. That was where I was most comfortable. I was least comfortable in my feminine energy. I did not want to just rest. I did not know how. I did not know how to feel my feelings. A lot of the time when you're a woman who takes on a lot of the doing in any relationship dynamic or even in your own body, your own self, this looks like, just to be tactical, you never know how to sit still. Have you ever seen a woman who's like a busybody? Like, for example, my mom is a great example of this. Hi, Mom. I know you're listening. And I not roasted you. I love you. But my mom never sits down. She's always cleaning, always thinking about, oh, I got to do the laundry. Oh, where's my checklist? So she has that more masculine energy in the dynamic because a lot of the time where this comes from is, of course, your childhood. So when you as a woman take on more of the masculine energy, it's probably because you felt out of control in your childhood. And so you did not see a good example of what it was like to have a healthy relationship dynamic of your parents with balanced masculine and feminine energy, creating a space for you to therefore have balanced energies within yourself. If you lived in a chaotic home, a chaotic childhood, or you saw the behaviors of both of your parents being very controlling, both parents very, out of balance, you have no emotions, no feminine energy in the home, rest isn't encouraged, emotions aren't supported. And that's not always coming from a very extremely bad place. That sometimes it's just coming from you got to know better to do better. And we have a lot of beautiful parents and households that are doing the best they can with the resources that they have and that they've learned. And those dynamics just get passed down from generation to generation. Now they're doing in their mind the best they could. I think a lot of the parents of our generation, you have fathers who came from a line of men who worked really, really hard to provide everything they could for their children. But it gets to a point where you're working really hard, you're never home. And so, yeah, sure, you could show up for maybe some of the softball games or sports games for your kid, but you're not able to have the energy required to hold space for them emotionally as a man. You don't even have time to hold space for your own emotions as a man in that generation. So what happens there is that your child grows up and now doesn't have a connection to their own being, to their own feeling of emotions, because they didn't have it modeled for them. This is where you have a lot of men these days saying, I have a wound from my father because my father never made me feel worthy as I was, never made me feel safe to express my emotions, never made me feel like I was good enough or that I was worthy for who I was rather than what I was doing. And then that wound is what just carries over from generations until one person decides to heal it and to bring themselves into balance. I think that sounds like your story in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yes and no. I think, thankfully, I come from a line of men that understood the masculine responsibility of providing and protecting. And that's where I feel as if a lot of men come from. That's entire generations before us, the ones that came home from war and then had to, get a job at Ford Motor Company the next day, whatever it was, start working on the factory line, whatever it may be. It was just a long list of doing, all to provide and protect for their loved ones and family. And I think it's such a noble way to live. And I'm so grateful for everyone who has done that in the past. I literally built this country and have built my family. I was very fortunate, I believe, to where the men in my life, my grandfather and grandpa, my father's side, despite not really having, let's say, incredible role models for this, they felt as if they were always someone I can come and talk to.
Oh, great.
And I think my dad, the same to the best of his ability. They both were able to still provide this space that, hey, if you ever need anything, if you ever not only need something from me in terms of need some money to, go with your friends or need this and this and that, not just to fix the car, whatever it is, but if you need to talk, we can. A lot of men did not have that though. A lot of men had a father that oftentimes had a very strong voice inside their head telling them they're not enough. They need to do more for their family. What they're doing so far is not enough. And therefore they pass that same voice on to the minds of all their children. And so if they didn't perform well in sports, they didn't perform well with the grades, they didn't perform with all these other aspects, that same inner critic that was in their father's mind is now in their mind. And what I think we can do is realize that inner voice can be remedied by embracing the other aspects of life that aren't the number one metric being success. What I've realized in my personal life, and what I've seen honestly with my father and others, when we step more into the feminine, more into the being, while still making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed on the doing side of providing for the family, whatever it may be, when we step more into the being of actual physical acts of just relaxing and no pressure on being the most productive we can be in this moment, it allows us to open our heart, open our mind, and just relax, and then allow everyone around us to feel free to come to us about anything and anyone. Now, there are certain people that have a certain cap of their emotional intelligence. So they can't sit and talk to you as if they were your therapist for hours, and that's completely okay. What I'm here to say is that there isn't a whole other aspect to life that generations upon generations of men that have came before us have not had the gift of understanding. And that is that a huge aspect of life is being, is presence, is finding a way to not only provide for the family, but to also be there for your daughter when they're in their preteens and they're having a rough time in school, and listening to them, being present with them, and doing and being everything they may need in that moment, to literally hold them when they're down. And those are the stories that daughter, that son is going to remember. Those are the stories that teach them the values and principles that will make the next generation even better. There's a whole nother aspect to life that so many men have not had the privilege of tapping into because of these societal structures that were built of what a man can do and will be. We are now stepping into a generation where we're going to have, thankfully, more free time than ever before, I believe.
And more resources.
More resources than ever before. So we're going to have the education behind it, along with the newer level of energy, if we take control of our lives and empower ourselves to do so, a new level of energy to become a more evolved version of the modern man, where we can provide and protect, along with have the strength and compassion and love needed to provide everything necessary for the emotional needs of our wife and children. And that is something that, since the dawn of time, most men have not had the capability of understanding, because they didn't have that in their own life, and also they didn't have the resources to seek upon that through other father figures, or now, of course, they didn't have the internet. We have the internet now. We can learn these things from people that are doing it very well.
And have access to people who are serving as role models in this space. If you don't know that another way of doing something exists, how are you supposed to know?
Exactly. And that's why the cycle is repeated over and over. And that's not only the case for masculine and feminine dynamics. That's just everything we do as a whole. Because we haven't seen anything different, we just repeat what we know. What humans are, love habits and patterns in that way. We just keep on these cycles going for generations upon generations. But I really feel a shift taking place. But we need people to understand that there are two large, different parts of life that we can now be empowered to harness both of them on a spectrum balance that works best for both of us, or everyone.
I love that. It's interesting because from my experience of my relationship with my mom and dad, my mom was always my emotional rock. I felt very comfortable and safe to go to her to express my feelings. But my dad, now they had a traditional dynamic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She did interior design work, so she would, go over to the neighbors and get hired by a bunch of people in the neighborhood to redo their home. She still does that to this day. She did some people's hair. She's an incredible cosmetologist, still the only person who's ever touched this wig right here. But my mom was a traditional, stay-at-home mom for me and my 3 siblings. And when I think about our dynamic at home, it was very much my mom was the CEO of the household. She made sure that everything got done, and she was brilliant at it. I mean, she really could be the CEO of like a Fortune 500 company easily, because she's extremely organized, always gets things done right on time. It's to the highest standard ever. Like, I remember when I was a little girl, whenever we would have lunch, it would be in these lunch boxes with an Etch-a-Sketch in it. And my mom would write these little notes, like she'd draw a picture and say like, "I love you, sweetie." And then she'd give like amazing snacks that all the kids were jealous of. So my mom has always just been incredibly good at whatever she does, including motherhood. Our parties were the most extravagant. She'd make these huge centerpieces, and our party invitations that she would make by hand, make 3D elements like a monkey swinging from a tree in this invitation that she'd mail out to people. She was just famous within our school system and our community system for being like the highest quality, top-notch Girl Scout troop leader mom. And that's what I had in the household. I had my mom as like a constant rock and source of emotional support. Now, how was that possible? Because my dad was a provider. My dad was working as a CFO at a casino, and he worked very hard and basically wasn't there very often. So we would all have dinner together at the same time every night. Sometimes my dad would come home late and my mom would, leave his food in the microwave and heat it up and join him for dinner. But I just remember that in the dinner dynamics, which I love and cherish because now as a working adult, I can understand how much sacrifice and planning it took for my dad to even physically be at the table. Like imagining being, working all day from like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at a casino, probably even earlier than that, and then coming home truly exhausted and joining us all for dinner. I now have empathy and compassion for why my dad wasn't emotionally present. My dad was physically present, but was not emotionally present because he probably didn't have the energy to be. Whereas my mom, who was at home and doing, side jobs, interior design, people's hair, she had enough energy and capacity to hold that emotional container for me and my 3 siblings. But of course, at the time, when you're going through your childhood and you're experiencing it, I don't know that. I don't have the worldview that I have today where I can realize that my dad was doing the best he could. My dad was providing all the resources for our family to thrive, and he was showing up in the way that he knew how that his father had modeled for him. And when I look back on my childhood, I can recognize that why I spent so much of my life being really afraid and uncomfortable expressing my emotions to men is because I never did that with my father. And that's not his fault at all. And it's not my fault at all. The space just simply wasn't there. He didn't know how to do it. And I forgive him. There's honestly nothing to forgive. It's just somebody playing out the dynamic that was put in front of them for their entire childhood and saying, you know what? I want to give my kids everything I can. I want them to have a life a little better than mine. So I'm going to work my ass off, provide this container. And then I know my wife has got me. I know my wife would be able to hold the emotional space for our kids. That's what I was raised in. Now I recognize how that affected my dating life. This is the through line that I'm connecting here. As a woman who did not have an emotional connection with her father. Now, don't get me wrong here. He went to all of my sports games. He showed up physically. He was there and he was present and he was doing the best he could. But I did not go to my dad for emotional topics. I didn't tell my dad when someone made fun of me in school or when I was having struggles with my friends. We didn't have that connection. He didn't know how to hold that space. So I had an outlet for that in my mom. But because I didn't have my dad throughout my childhood to be there as an emotional rock, whenever I would go on dates, my default with men was showing them everything I was doing because that's how I connected to my father. My father valued my grades. He valued how I was doing in sports. He valued all the things that were happening in my school day where I was impressing everyone and showing up and being top of my class. So what I learned was that my dad, the most important man in my life, valued me for what I was doing, not who I was being. Now that blueprint, that energetic blueprint that was created in my childhood carried over to my dating life until I saw it and healed it. Because what I would do was, first of all, because I'm somebody who's disconnected from even seeing men as a place that can be an emotional container or safety for me, I was showing up trying to impress men, trying to win them over, trying to convince them that I'm worthy of being chosen. All of what I just said is masculine energy. So my imbalance was severe when I was dating. Now, what's funny is that if I got past, and I talked about this before, a lot of the time because I'm very entertaining and wacky and I have like a big personality and I'm really engaging to talk to, men would like lock it down with me really fast. So I didn't go through a lot of dating experiences. I didn't date like a normal person. And so a lot of the time men didn't know that this dynamic was there. And then once I was comfortable with them, which the title of being together, of being my boyfriend made me emotionally comfortable, that's when I would bring out my more relaxed side. And then they'd be like, oh, wow, like I really like you as a person. But when I realized that I was settling because I was afraid of men and just allowing any old man to choose me and be like, oh, I like you. You want to be my girlfriend? I'm like, sure. Once I realized I was doing that, when I started dating normally again, which means going out on dates without having sex, getting to know men for who they are, understanding and feeling into the dynamic in your body, and then you as a woman choosing whether or not you want to continue. When I started that journey is when I realized, oh my gosh, even though I'm aware of everything I just told you, I still notice myself needing to fight to earn the man. And in that very moment that I made that realization of everything I just told you, I was like, I need to do a lot of healing into getting back into my own feminine energy. I need to unlearn all of the masculine patterns that I've developed over my entire life and feel so comfortable showing up to a date, having it be low stakes, having it not be anything important or life or death, not being scary. And I don't even really need to tell them who I am or what I've done. I don't need to prove anything to these men. I just have to show up and they are grateful to be in my presence because I am amazing. My energy is juicy and alive because I let them feel it. I don't have to win them over with all my very impressive thoughts and ideas. Those are in there. And if they get to know me and earn me, to flip the script, then they'll see all of these beautiful, impressive thoughts and ideas of mine, but I don't need to lead with that. What I realized, just to finish this out, is that when I was dating in the more masculine energy, what you attract is the opposite of the energy when it comes to masculine and feminine, because people can feel that energy within you. It comes through in behaviors, right? So if you are a woman in her masculine, who I have always wanted a more masculine man, I have always wanted to be just like kind of a passenger princess in my relationship where the man's setting the frame and he's pushing the ball down the field and I just show up. I knew I always wanted that, in my heart of hearts. But like I was saying, I was not creating the space to fall into my dynamic. I was too nervous and anxious about what was going on and about being chosen, about doing everything right, about performing, about being perfect, that was taking over me just being able to be fully comfortable in my own energy and then knowing that the man's got me. So I'll stop there because I covered a lot there. And I want to hear from my darling.
I think it's a fantastic story. And I think that's exactly what we need to hear at this moment. This is why I believe so many men and women are just dating younger versions of their father or mother. So how your father gave you love and affection is the metrics or personality traits or attributes of yourself that you're going to advertise to the next man you want that same love and affection from. What I mean by that is, as a child, like you were saying, that getting great grades, pretty much your resume of what you've done was your way of getting love and affection because of the generations before. That's just how we view our overall worth, right? What we've done for others, what we've done in society. Because you had that frame, I see this all the time. Women think all men want that same thing.
Yeah.
So women are like, well, okay, this is what my parents congratulated me for. And of course, I want someone that praises me and congratulates me also. And that's how I perceive love from them. So I'm going to portray this same doing character, this doing avatar to my dating pool. And so I see this all the time when I was back in dating apps, of course, before meeting you. The Tinder, the Bumble, the Hinge, you see in the bio, it's like entrepreneur, PhD, real estate, homeowner, like all these other things. And I'm sitting there like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Are you like, I do not care. A secure man does not care about that.
Because he provides it.
Like the last thing I need for my woman is for her to have another rental property under her belt. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. How caring, compassionate are you going to be? Men are looking to increase the capacity of the love they have in their lives, but they don't know how to articulate that. That's why so many men are dating pretty much mirrors of themselves
Oof.
that both are just looking for the approval from their parents. And so the same way a man got love from his mother and father, what they felt as if they needed to do to get that, they will do those same things for their future dating prospects or future wife. We need to understand that we need to break the chain of what we feel as if we need to do or be for love in our life, that our parents, whether they know it or not, taught us.
Mm.
And we need to start over and scratch the surface and be like, what am I going to pride myself on? What am I going to love myself for? Is that love conditional, whether we get into this school or we have this rental, whatever it is, the entrepreneur, the real estate, whatever it may be, whatever your metric is for success? Yeah. Is that what we're going to hold our love hostage for? We can only be worthy of it when we get there. Because if we have that mindset towards ourselves, we are going to project that mindset onto others, to which they will only love us for those accomplishments too.
Yeah.
But if we can understand that we can rewrite the story, and this is especially about women, because I think it is a little bit different for men, especially about women, if they pride themselves, and pride's a tricky word, but if they pride or empower themselves based off of the quality of their character, how much love they have for themselves, how much love they spread into friends, family, loved ones, or complete strangers, the amount of care and intention they put into what they create, whether that's the space, their home, or this is, I know, throwing it back, how they cook, what they create in the form of art, or simply what they create in the form of making the lives of everyone around them better. If they make that their metric, like how do people feel when they're around me? If that is the metric for women and men, but especially women, and they become fantastic on making sure that everyone around them can feel the love they have for themselves because it's oozing out of them and pouring into others, that is the one trait, that is the one attribute that every man on this planet wants. And if a woman can understand that and embody that, they will have a long line of men knocking down their door, no matter how they look, no matter all the superficial things. That's what men really want. But yeah, we have a faulty metric system when it comes to what we believe will make us worthy of that husband, that wife, whatever it is. And I think it's really time to rewrite that. This is why we see a world, especially a country, that does not have the right priorities in line. It is from this generational trauma, generational patterns being passed down that judges our self-worth based off of our output, as opposed to our character. When we start to judge ourselves upon our character, as opposed to our metrics and our output, that is when we will return to our divinity, as in divine feminine and divine masculine, which creates a household, therefore a community that is full of love and light and health and all the other positive attributes that go into this human experience, as opposed to the opposite, which is what we see now more and more than ever before. So overall, I think it's just really important to understand that what we are seeking upon from the external world, how we want them to perceive us, is a faulty metric system that we've been handed. We can choose to rewrite that, and we can choose how we want to be perceived and what category that perception is going to come from. Is that going to come from metrics, or is that going to come from the quality of our character?
I love that, baby. And I think what you've just underscored is what I was talking about before when it comes to the world being more of a masculine paradigm, because being valued for who you are is feminine.
I agree.
Being valued for what you do is the masculine.
I agree.
And now we have everyone very out of whack in this more masculine paradigm of, oh, I've got to prove myself and I've got to earn everything and I've got to do and I've got to plan and I've got to organize and I've got to conquer. And even women are in that. I was a shining example of that in my career. in getting top of my class all throughout my life, winning competitions, being extremely competitive. Like I was super in the mind. That's another way to see masculine, feminine. Masculine energy is the mind, and feminine energy is the heart and the body. And that's why masculine energy is something that you feel when somebody's coming at you and explaining something, or telling you about an idea or speaking. I think Cam's a great example of this, when Cam really gets into a riff and he's going for it and like telling you how it is. Perfect example of masculine energy. I'm also a great example of masculine energy right now because we're in like lecturing, teaching, speaking mode. Yeah. And so what's funny is like, I wish that you could see me not in this setting so that you could see what my feminine energy looks like and what Cam's looks like too, because we both have it. How would you describe me at my most feminine, my love?
This is like 95% of your life.
And this is what's funny.
Like 5 to probably like 2% of what she does.
Yeah.
But it's in what we call big shirt. So like this big one piece cotton shirt that goes down to, almost your knees. And you're just laying down most of the day. You're just relaxing. It's just being. And it's, being there to love me when I need it. Being there if there's someone I need to go to for advice or just care when needed. Mm-hmm. But you spend a lot of your day just doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
And if that's calling your mother, if that's, writing a long form tweet or whatever that is, you are simply just enjoying yourself in the present moment like ever before. You're going on walks. Mm-hmm. You're, sipping on your Diet Coke, maybe making a fruit bowl for me, whatever it may be. You were
hosting events,
but you're constantly in this mode of what I would call it creating, connecting. You are connecting with yourself, with others, or you're creating a piece of writing or, online great morning call that we have. You're doing these things that are all coming from the heart. And there's really nothing on your plate that you are currently having to do that you wouldn't want to do. Mm-hmm. And that is a place of being in what I would call being a becoming that has really been this sweet spot for you that gives you all the energy needed to then be fantastic when it's time to step more into your masculine, when it's time to get ready, when it's time to step in front of this camera and microphone and really perform and do whatever it may be. And that happens only occasionally. I can imagine again, also like on the walks that you do when you step in front of pretty much a stage, give a speech, when you're leading, I would say it's more of a masculine trait. You're able to do that so well because you give yourself the space to be feminine. Mm-hmm. You're recharging your batteries for a lot of the day and you enjoy that process. Absolutely. You're recharging your doing batteries by just being. Mm-hmm. And I've realized that for myself where, oh man, it's just wild to think where the far majority of my life I was do all
Most
the time.
Men are.
All the time. And I couldn't shut it off. I need to be doing something or else what am I doing for life? You got to get up and do something.
Got to be productive.
Got to be productive at all times.
Can't waste time.
And I kept on hitting kind of this wall of burnout, kind of a breaking point of this is too much. What's going on? And for some reason, just in life, I felt as if I hit a wall when it came to my overall like success. I'm like, what more can I really do? And like, there's so much more that I can accomplish and do, but I just don't have the energy for it. What's going on? And it wasn't until I took my calendar, looked at the week, looked at the month and said, I'm blocking off this time, this evening, this afternoon, this morning. I'm not doing shit. I'm gonna play video games if I want. I'm gonna lay down. I'm gonna get a massage. I'm gonna cuddle and watch reality TV with you as we eat ice cream, have some pizza, do whatever I want. And I'm going to purposely do nothing and just be, just relax. And what I've realized is that the far majority of my life, the balance of yin and yang being doing and yin being being, I was missing the yin. So this circle, this element that makes up all of human life, I was missing half of it.
Wow.
Therefore, I felt empty to some extent. I felt as if I can only be 50% of my potential. Literally, I said that multiple times. I feel like I'm only 40, 50% of my potential right now. It was until I incorporated being intentionally and dropped any judgment, any generational feelings of, oh, I'm not enough. I got to be doing something. I got to be productive in this moment. Once I dropped that and allow myself to truly just be present with you, present with my Xbox as I play my game, or present outside in nature, or calling an old friend, whatever it was.
Yeah.
As soon as I can be present being there, I swear to you, it kind of unlocked this piece of the puzzle where the yang and the yin fell into place. And then literally my phone has been nonstop buzzing.
It has.
With opportunities, with a higher level of success that's coming from that. It's just wild to see that it's almost as if life was waiting for me to find this balance to then get me to that next level, that I felt as if there was a ceiling capping me for so long. As soon as I found that balance, I bursted through that level. And now I realize every part of my life, I can feel energized. Every part of my life, I can get closer to reaching my highest good, my 100% of myself. And that's not coming from 100% productivity, 100% output. For me to have the highest quality and quantity output, I need to put in time to rest and relax and be. And so once I understood that, now I'm having like no judgment, understanding that the game of 2K, that just cuddling with you, the eating some pizza, going for a walk, whatever it is actually making me better in these moments, in moments on my calls, in moments when I'm having business meetings, in my moments of all these other things, because I'm more balanced, because I'm more present with them, because I allow myself to be present with you, present with myself. And so once you figure that out and understand that I can actually be more masculine and do more for the world when I embrace this more feminine side of me, which sounds like a contradiction, but I swear to you, it's not. It's a missing puzzle piece that we've never been taught, that is needed, of course. That once we put in that puzzle piece, the game becomes incredibly clear, and the game starts working in our favor much more than we ever could imagine. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be easy. Once we drop the judgment towards it, intentionally doing nothing and having fun and being in whatever way appeals to you the most in a healthy way, I feel like I just unlocked life. I feel as if I'm now in an area where I find my balance on the spectrum, and life is now working for me as opposed to me always having to react to everything.
Isn't it interesting how the second that you gave yourself time, for maybe the first time in your life, just to relax and not have a bunch of meetings on the calendar and not have, I gotta write this copy, I gotta post these tweets, I gotta do a newsletter every day. You had an extreme chapter of doing, where this man's output was more than I have ever seen one person do. He was writing a newsletter, in some cases, thousands of words every single day for 100 days. He was doing a daily video of You Are Loved, You Are Enough, which is a little series he does on Instagram every single day. He was writing tweets. He was scheduling client calls. He was creating his website and the copy for his website, putting all the systems in place for us to thrive.
Hosting men's circles.
He was hosting men's circles.
Being an unpaid therapist to most friends and family.
That
was like
literally
legit 10, 15 hours a week, just that.
Yeah, he was meeting with people on like a near daily basis and going on these incredibly long walks with them and doing therapy, soul surgery on them. And they didn't even know what was going on. All they knew is they wanted more of it. And then they kept asking and asking. So when it came to Cam's daily life, it was literally, I'm writing a newsletter, 1,000 words a day. I am writing tweets. I am scheduling meetings. I am being an unpaid therapist to most of my friends and family.
Working out twice a day.
I'm working out twice a day.
Strict eating regimen.
I'm literally eating nothing but steak and fruit bowls. And that was his life. And then one day, because he was doing something called 75 Hard, which is this program created by Andy Frisella. And the whole idea is that for 75 days, you do this checklist of activities, from exercising twice a day to drinking a gallon of water every day, eating no artificial foods, doing a progress picture. What am I missing, baby?
I don't even know. It's just, it's the foundation of, they say it's made to build discipline. And I completely agree. I think it's very necessary. And a lot of people at that stage of life where they've lost all hope and they're not balanced at all when it comes to masculine and feminine, they're in this middle ground, which most of society is right now, where they're just numb. That's what I call it. They're numb to life right now. And they're lazy and they're broke and they're lost. They don't know what to do. And so that's where most of society is. So I think it's necessary. And this really strengthens the doing part of us when we do something like 70 Hard, which is fantastic. What I realized for me is like, I don't need that. I'm already productive. I'm a very productive person. I need to do, if 75 soft was a thing or 75 relax was a thing, that's what I needed in my life. And so understanding that just because the Instagram influencers are saying this is what you need to be successful, that doesn't apply to you. You get to decide. But I also realized, and I'm very grateful for everyone who stands for that. But all of the disciplined, the hyper-disciplined, hyper-success people that I've looked up to for the far majority of my life when I was in that state of being, they're not even close to the top list of people that I've come across when it comes to happiness. Not at all. They're successful. They got a lot of money, but they'll even tell you they're not happy. I'm like, I don't want that life. I don't want to be known for running a marathon a day or like starting this huge business if it comes at the cost of my happiness. No. I'm going to be able to do both. I'm setting that aside and I'll create the template to live a happy, successful life in all metrics while still being balanced, while still enjoying this life, having fun. Like, what about that? We're on a floating rock here. Are you serious? Are we just trying to stack the bank account that's all bullshit? They're inflating the money anyway. That's what our life's going to be. I'm telling you, that's a part of life that's needed. I'm still doing the best I can to do that. That's all my focus. I'm going to run in the desert for 50 miles just cause. What are we talking about? Can we just recenter and be like, that's insane. That's insane behavior. Can we not see that we're running away from something? And so I realized, like, I completely understand why people are at that frame. And I know these influencers personally now. And so I see what's the driver behind this all. And it's pain. It's inner pain. And they're using the external as a coping mechanism so they don't have to look the inner pain.
Which is?
The profane masculine.
What are they not connected to?
Oh, the feminine. The feminine, 100%. They're not connected to the feminine at all.
And this is the case for not only men, but for anyone who is doing all the time and cannot sit down, cannot rest, says, I'm running out of time, I'm wasting my time, I'm never doing enough, I'm not productive. That's the person, you know, if this is you, I have compassion for you, it used to be me. Years ago, when I was at the height of my masculine energy, I would spend all day with someone else's voice in my head. So I'd literally wake up with a YouTube video or a podcast, and it was always something that would make me better. It was always educational. So I'd have my Diary of a CEO podcast on with one relationship expert, be listening to that. Okay, great. Okay, now I have to work. Now I'm fully locked in. I'm making my money. I'm getting that bag. Okay, great. Doing all this thing from 9 to 5. Great. 5 p.m. comes around. Now I'm going to go to the gym. It's at Orange Theory. There's music blaring in the speakers. I can't hear myself think. That's how I like it when I'm doing, right? I like to have every other kind of voice in my head except for my own when you are an overbalanced masculine energy. That's how you could tell. If you check in with yourself right now, you analyze your day and you tell me, how often do you sit in silence and can hear your own voice speaking to you? If you don't have very many moments in your day where you can hear your own voice, you're overbalanced in the masculine. That applies to both men and women. Now, let's talk about, that's the problem, right? Let's talk about the solution. How do you surrender more and fall into that loving, juicy, delicious space of trust, of being, of I don't need to do to earn anyone's love or to earn my worth? How do you fall into that? If you analyze your day and you see that it's a lot of other voices in your head, the first thing that you can do, this is step one, this is the first thing I did, is start to go on walks by yourself with no headphones. That's like step one. Because you're exercising, right? So you're getting something in there. So I'm
cross it off your checklist.
See, you can check it off. You know, you're getting those steps in. You're being productive. But because you have no one's voice in your ear, you don't have any headphones in, you're at least present in the body. So what it's all about is slowly adjusting your daily routine, if you're overbalanced in the masculine, to allow more space, brick by brick, for you to hear yourself and to come home to your own voice. So start there. That's what I did. I started going on walks by myself. Now, in the beginning of this, it's honestly overwhelming. It's a shock to the system because we are so overstimulated in this world. We are so overbalanced in the masculine of having to do something at all second of the day that going on a walk by yourself when you first started is a little scary because you start to feel things like, have you ever been driving in your car and you just start crying? Why do you think that happens? Because you are distracted. Your conscious mind is driving, but you don't really have to be laser focused, right? And then it creates this space for you to feel something because you're not talking to anybody. So that's the second thing you can do. If you have a car and you're driving around, drive without any sound. Just drive in silence. I will bet you money. You do that enough times, you will cry. And you'll experience exactly what I'm talking about here. Because that is what happens when you are suppressing all of the feelings that you have, replacing any time in your day where we would have the space to feel our feelings with a doing activity. So when we peel back, we start subtracting some of this overbalanced doing activities and come back home to our own voice by starting to go on walks without headphones, by driving without music, by simply, if meditating is too much, because I understand that sitting in a room with your eyes closed with no sound is very overwhelming. If you want to start by doing some kind of guided meditation that you can find on YouTube where someone is speaking on certain topics and it's a really calming voice, or something called miracle tones. These are healing frequencies that have no words. It's basically like someone hitting a gong or a sound bowl and washing this beautiful frequency over you. If you want to start there and it's a little less intimidating, anything that you can do to create more space within your own body and mind and heart to hear itself will put you on this journey. This is for men and women. Now, when you get in on that foundation, then you go into intermediate levels. That would be like going to sound baths, going to breathwork classes, like really hitting the pavement on being activities. That's a funny sentence. Hitting the pavement on being. But you keep going up these levels, the more comfortable you feel. When you really feel like you have the ability to go on walks or drive in silence and you feel comfortable, you don't feel like it's a stretch anymore. You're like, oh, okay, I have space for something else. That's what we're doing. We are taking the doing off the plate, we're subtracting the doing, and we are creating more and more space for the being.
It's very, very clear. Are you adhering to Father Time or Mother Nature?
Ooh.
Everyone right now is on one side of the extreme. They're either New York City, Father Time, I don't have enough time, I got to be this at 2 p.m., whatever it may be. It's a feeling of overproductivity and a lack of peace and happiness.
Ooh.
Then there's the complete opposite side, as in adhering to Mother Nature. I just came back from living in Bali. There are people that have been born and raised in the island that their entire day is just spent on the beach, selling coconuts, doing whatever it is they're doing. It's a lot of being. It's a lot of time in nature. And they're not worried about the time at all. They're not worried about the watch or the clock at all. There is a balance between the two where we can find a good amount of doing productivity along with being happy and being at peace. But the far majority, especially of America, is fully on Father Time, which is the cause of so many of our problems. We can find a good balance of that Father Time in Mother Nature so that we come together and live a life full of doing whatever we feel we want to do with the world, and most importantly, being who we know we're meant to be for the world. And all that can happen from a place of love, power, and overall happiness.
I love that. That's a beautiful way of putting it. I've never heard that before, actually.
Yeah, it just came up as you were speaking.
That's beautiful.
But that's really what's happening, right? It's like there's two large aspects of life that we've always known of. We've always known that name. And it's funny because Father Time is masculine
and Mother Nature
is feminine.
That is wild,
perfect,
actually.
It must be why that's the case.
Ancient wisdom in the phrases.
Exactly. The more time you spend in nature, the more time you're spending in your feminine, honestly.
Wow.
And nature within itself, you are so small in this world, in the natural environment, that you kind of have to flow with it.
Yeah.
You're not going to beat this gust of wind. You're not going to beat that rain. You're not going to beat that predator animal, not too
You have
far
to
away from
surrender.
you. You need to surrender to nature.
Mm-hmm.
But because we've built these artificial environments like New York City, which is the pinnacle of it, but there's so many minor ones like that around the world. Because we've lived in these environments where we have exclude ourselves from nature, we're taking everything so serious.
Yeah.
Everything's about me. I'm the strongest. I'm the most powerful. I'm this and this and that.
And funny enough, that is the exact kind of energy that when women bring a seriousness to dating, it drives the men far, far, far away because it feels like they are sitting across the table from a fellow man and that they're dating a bro.
And you don't want that.
And it's not anyone's fault because we're living in a world on father time. So everyone has to get with the program. Like I'll use myself as a, 21-year-old woman who just graduated college, top of my class, summa cum laude. I get my first job in big tech. I work really, really hard. I'm working till like 8 p.m. every night. I have no idea that energy of doing and conquering that I was bringing to my work, I was bringing to my dates.
To be honest with you, as a 24-year-old, I would consider myself high value man for a 24-year-old.
Oh, definitely.
That is incredibly unappealing to me.
I know, that's why I'm
That is the last thing I want.
it.
That is so unsexy, like on anything I could ever want in my future person.
Because it is the exact same frame that you're trying to get a break from.
Yeah, I just got back from work. I just worked 12 hours straight.
You don't want to keep working.
I don't want to.
You don't want to stay on the clock.
It's ridiculous.
Because the woman that you're on a date with is trying to mad dog you into proving that she's smarter than you.
A flex off? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I want to have fun. I want to laugh.
I want to laugh.
I want to feel loved.
I want to feel something.
I want to feel something. I just came from a world of numbers and digits and time.
Yeah.
Fuck all that.
Yeah.
I want to feel something.
I want to feel good.
That is what women, I believe, are put here to do, to bring color to this black and white world. But we've forgotten that.
Absolutely.
And I think it's time to return back to that.
Yes.
Not saying I believe every woman on this planet can do nearly anything a man can do.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for men to women, except birth kids, and that whole biological part that we like to, forget. Yeah. But there's a very big difference there. But I am saying that each sex has certain attributes that just naturally they're going to be more drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to start embracing that natural inclination to do or be things as opposed to what we've been told to do or be. If women truly were able to live a life in which felt right to them, they would not be doing the exact same things they're doing today. Some would, but most wouldn't. When a woman steps into her masculine, that's coming from force. I've never met a woman that her entire life felt fully safe, fully seen, and then ended up being a boss woman.
Mm.
Why do you think that is?
You asking?
I'm asking you.
Well, when you grow up in an environment where you don't feel in control, you spend your whole life trying to create that control for yourself. Mm. And control is masculine. That's why whenever you have, let's take this into a dating context. This is the kind of woman who goes on a date. She thinks it went well. The guy hasn't texted her yet. She's now getting anxious. She sends a text first saying, "Thank you so much. I had such a great time. I would love to see you again." Okay, right in that moment, you are stepping into the masculine because now this is where it gets tricky. A lot of women, when I talk about this, come for me saying, well, I'm just being myself. And if a man doesn't like that I send that text after a date, he's not my man. Let's pause. Let's ask ourselves, is that who you are at your core? Or is that a coping mechanism? Is that a coping mechanism for being uncomfortable with your reality and wanting to fix, control, push the ball forward? Because in a lot of these cases, in the case of my own life and experiences, anytime that I did that, I sent the text after the date, it was because I was anxious and I couldn't stand not knowing where I stood with someone. I couldn't surrender. I couldn't let go. I couldn't say, you know what? If he likes me, great. If he doesn't like me, also great. I wasn't comfortable saying that because I wasn't choosing myself, because I wasn't doing the work on myself to look at all my past wounds, insecurities, and all the things in my past that were holding me back like this dark cloud above me that I didn't want to look at. I didn't want to dissolve using my own power. So what did that manifest in? That manifested in me taking these actions, putting myself in a situation to alleviate my own anxiety, my own suffering. And in doing so, I then became slowly the man in the dynamic because I did not trust the other party in the relationship to do that. Now, this is what happens because some women want that. There are women out there who want to be in control. They want to lead the dynamic. What you will do though, if you want to be in control of the dynamic, you want to be the one who's leading it, you will attract the opposite pole of that energy, which is a feminine man. So you have to ask yourself, what do I want my dynamic to look and feel like? I'll speak for myself. I knew that I wanted to be the passenger princess of my relationship. I didn't want to have to plan dates. I didn't want to have to do anything. I didn't want to have to remind my man to take certain actions or be a nagging mother to my man. I wanted the man to take care of all of the logistics, and I wanted to simply show up. That's what I wanted. Now, if you want the opposite of that, literally what I just said flipped. Keep on doing you. That's fine. Now, I found that when I was in relationships like that, I got extremely exhausted. I literally burnt myself out because here I am having no connection to my being energy, and I am taking on all the doing. So now when you have kids, let's fast forward. When Cam and I have a kid, now I'm doing all the mothering, which nurturing is a masculine trait, believe it or not. Nurturing is making sure that, your kid has a clean face and they have their clothes on and then all the things thought of. That's all in the mind, all that preparation, all that planning, all that nurturing. Hey, did you forget your sweatshirt, sweetie? Did you do this? Are you sure you're doing this? What about this? That's all nurturing. It's all a masculine trait. Now, when women become mothers and that becomes their new default, and they're doing a lot more than they have before, and they're also holding the emotional space, they're also taking on that role. If you are with a passive feminine man, you are going to suffer. But you have to ask yourself, are you creating the conditions for him to be that way? How are you contributing to the dynamic? Because you're half of it. And you can rewrite this story at any moment. That's the beauty of it. If you're sitting there listening to this and saying, oh my gosh, that's me. Like I am overly in my masculine. What do? I'm already married. I'm already in a relationship. That's okay. Like you're never running out of time and you're never doomed to the dynamic the way that it looks today. If you're unhappy with how a dynamic looks and feels like to you, you can make small shifts. Now, what would this look like? Let's say you're the woman I described in dating who is out of anxiety sending texts after a date because you can't stand to know whether or not he liked you, you want to see him again. You start there. You simply stop. When you feel the overwhelming anxiety to send it, I just want you to put the phone down. I want you to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, get back into your body. I just want you to breathe. I want you to talk to yourself and talk through whatever you are experiencing in that moment. Just say, I'm feeling anxious about how he felt about me on that date. I don't know if he liked me or not, but it's okay. I feel completely safe and comfortable in this moment. I feel completely safe and free to let go. I surrender to whatever happens. I'm not going to push the ball forward. I am simply going to show up exactly as I am. And I know that when I find the right man, when I go on the date with the right man, he will come for me. He will act. He will push the ball forward, and I will simply be here, and he will love and cherish every single moment of it. I am enough exactly as I am in this moment, and I don't need to do anything to prove it. You just sit there with those feelings and just let the truth of your experience at that moment out. Let it out. Talk to yourself. I talk to myself all the time. You say that, let it drain. As I was speaking, even bringing myself back to those moments, you feel your emotions drain from you, literally from your heart, down through your feet. If you just take that moment, start there, right when you feel the urge to do something. Now I'm going to take it to the woman in relationship. Let's say you're in a dynamic where you're doing a whole heck of a lot and the man is not, and you're really resentful and you're getting to your breaking point. And you're like, how can I change this? Let's take something really practical. Let's say that he's not doing anything around the house. Instead of your natural inclination, which would be to yell across the house or out an outburst because you're starting to feel this energy bubble up, right? Be like, you never do anything around here. Like, honey, did you take out the trash? You feel that as I'm saying that. When you feel that emotion rise in you, that emotion of anger, when you look at the trash can and it's overflowing and you're so pissed and you're like, why didn't he take out the damn trash? Before you scream, before you react, do exactly what I just did before. Just take a moment, get back into your body, let all the emotions drain from you, and then go and find him. Don't yell. Go and find him wherever he is in the house. Connect with him. Rub his back. Hey, sweetie.
Hey.
I noticed that the kitchen getting a little stinky because you didn't take out the trash. And I was wondering if you could do that when you get a moment.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry about that.
That's all right, baby.
Yeah, I'll go and do it right now. Or in the next 5
sweetie.
minutes after this.
Whenever you can, baby.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, if you come to me like that, I'm not going to be starting shit. The voices will not be raised. You self-regulated and step back into your feminine to the point where it won't lead to anything more than a simple question and answer when it comes to trash. I think the problem is because we are so out of tune with our bodies and focus on the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how could he forget? I've asked him so many times, whatever it is. And it just goes into this masculine attack mode. This giving orders mode as if you're going to war or something.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for men and women and men, excuse me, to just reconnect with themselves in that moment. Like, hey, everything I want to say, I can do so in a calm manner. I can do so in a loving manner. Sadly, and this goes into this whole topic in itself, that when we're talking about today of masculine and feminine dynamics, and just a lot of the topics that we discuss in the Farm Dream social media platforms, there's obviously a misalignment going on within all of us to some extent based off of what we were conditioned to believe. And I want to make sure that every man and woman who is listening to this understands that we are not here to shame or guilt anyone because of the way they act or behave.
Oh, no, not at all.
This is all based off of the literal programming that has been handed down from us from generation upon generation and promoted through our environment, through our commercials, through the TV and media that we watch and all that is. But we need to understand to empower ourselves that this is no longer serving us. Mm-hmm. And we can at any time pick up techniques, just like Elle just talked about, and learn new ways of being that finally serve us.
Yeah.
And when we can do that and create ourselves to have the behavior that truly feels as if it's in the best interest of ourselves, that makes us feel more happy, loved, and more taken care of, that is when we get closer to a state where we attract someone who will treat us as such.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do not do that work, we will continue to date this quote unquote same guy, multiple guys that act the same way towards us because of the way we are allowing them to treat us. They're also playing on their wounds and their traumas and their cycles and patterns and behaviors that are syncing up perfectly with ours. But we can throw in the trash can everything we've learned and create a new set of behaviors, beliefs, and patterns that give us the right dynamic of masculine and feminine.
Within ourselves.
Within ourselves.
Which then balances the people around us. So have you ever been around someone who just feels really calm and feels really comfortable with themselves and really loving of themselves, and you feel just so good around them? That's what you're giving people the gift of when you do the inner work to balance your own masculine and feminine energies. That is such a gift that you are not only giving to yourself, but everyone who gets to spend time around you, and especially your partner.
I think every woman, if they're completely honest, wants a man that can connect with them deeply like we can, have this type of conversation with this high level of emotional intelligence
And presence.
and loving compassion, vulnerability that comes from being in the feminine, while also having within that same man a masculine side.
Mm-hmm.
That if someone trying to hurt us was coming through that door, you knew that I'd be the first to get up and try to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
That, or if there's a cockroach or spider in that corner, that I would get up and do something about it.
You're the spider cop.
I'm the spider cop, exactly. Because there are men out there that are either so far on one side that wear this persona, that build these muscles. I'm not against that at all, don't get me wrong, but that's all they know, that's all I identify with. Yeah. So that they got that in check. If someone were to come through that door, they can handle business that way, but they can't do this thing. They can't do this. Mm-hmm. Or you have other men, this is what I'm seeing a lot nowadays, where they're getting better at doing this. Mm-hmm. But if they see a spider, they're screaming just as loud as their girl, and they're telling their girl, "Hey, go pick that up. Go." We see that energy a lot nowadays.
Ooh.
Which is pussy repellent at its finest.
Oof. Speak on it.
And as men, we are here to empower them on the individual level that we can do both. We can be the protector, providing, while also having this side to deeply connect with everyone, but especially the women in our life. Mm-hmm. That is what I would call the modern man that we're trying to build. And the modern man is also the man that's going to stick up for what he knows is right in this world. Mm-hmm. If we look at the infrastructure and the systems, the circumstances that we find ourselves in on the collective level, as a country, as a society, we need men that are able to stand up and say no, while simultaneously having compassion for those that were hurt and also compassion for those that were doing the damage. There is a fine balance that must be made for us to enter this new chapter of life, to where everyone has the freedom to have these type of conversations, to have enough safety and abundance to have these type of conversations, to allow us to work towards having a happier, more fulfilled life. And so all I'm doing here, I mean, I know in my life, I'm going to actually go within the systems to make sure that the playing field is easier and safer for men and women to be able to explore these ideas, because I know that getting a firm grasp on these dynamics within ourselves will lead to happier, more loving, long-lasting relationships, families, communities, and overall life experiences. But this is the start. Finding the right balance within you. Finding the right healthy, as in divine masculine, divine feminine, as opposed to profane, that serves us the best. That makes sure that we feel safe, that makes sure we feel seen, and make sure we are creating the foundation in a relationship or within our own minds and bodies to align ourselves with the highest version of ourselves. And so that's all we're really trying to help others get to with this. That's what we're trying to guide them towards. And we think it's so important. It's not a topic that's talked about often, but I think it should be a main focus, and that's what we're going to make it as such.
Absolutely. Because really what it comes down to is, how do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you wake up every day and say, I love this life? This is amazing. I love every second of how I'm spending this life. I have work that I love and enjoy, and I feel so excited to do. I feel relaxed I don't feel burnt out. I don't feel exhausted. I don't feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends. How do you feel when you wake up? If there's a part of you that's saying, I'm tired, I want more, I don't like this, why can't I find my person? If there's any part of you that feels dissatisfied, where you can start is in taking a really good look at your doing and your being and seeing if they're out of balance. You bring those energies more into balance, you will see your world change. That's just another way of approaching what we talked about in the first episode around doing the work, around cleaning the mirror. There is cleaning the mirror when it comes to looking at your past wounds and insecurities and negative memories from your childhood and all these dynamics, everything we talk about. That's part of the work. The other part of the work is, what does my day-to-day look like? Am I balanced between doing and being? How can I bring that into balance? So to give you I always like to go very tangible. We talked about being activities earlier, walking without headphones, and I'll give you some more. Driving without music, playing. What would you do as a kid? What lit you up when you were a kid? Cam loves to play NBA 2K. What's your favorite video game? If you feel so called to play it, maybe you judge yourself a little bit. I know Cam did at one time where he was like, should I be a grown man playing video games? Is that acceptable? He was judging himself a lot for wanting to play these games. And that's what we worked on in that period of time where Cam just allowed himself to show up and do what he wanted without any judgment. So whatever that play is for you, maybe that's an instrument, maybe that's drawing, maybe that's going on Neopets. I loved Neopets as a kid. Whatever that is for you, you know what that is for you. Incorporate some element of play into your life. Other being activities, maybe. Cuddling, if you're able, always very good. You can also do it with friends. You can also do it with your family members. Just cuddling or hugging, It's some level of physical touch that just feels good and makes you feel comforted. Going to events or becoming a member of a community where you feel seen and like people know your name and like you're a regular and that you get a hug hello from people. Joining some kind of group, whether it's intramural sport or going on something like my walks here in Austin. Creating spaces where you can just show up and feel comfortable and safe to be yourself.
Creating spaces in which you can feel human again.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it comes down to. Everything we just listed is to remind ourselves that this is part of the human condition. We're human, we're not robots. And creating a lifestyle in which we can be human again. One thing you said is, we're doing all this to promote a certain type of feeling. I think we oftentimes forget that life is very simple and life pretty much is a pattern of feelings taking place. And that dictates the quality of our life on this floating rock.
Yeah.
And so everything we're doing here, everything we talk about in this podcast is to create a life in which desirable feelings take place.
Yeah.
To understand that everything we're experiencing is in fact a choice. And we have the utmost power to regain the human experience we're having through understanding the sequence of events that are taking place to either promote good feelings or promote bad feelings that currently may be happening. And if we can understand that tomorrow, if we want to create a lifestyle to promote the most peaceful, joyful, happy, loving version of ourselves, we can. And the missing piece that we've seen in society recently that's stopping everyone from being able to do that and is currently promoting the opposite is a lack of being.
Mm-hmm.
And not only a lack of being, but the judgment we feel behind being activities.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of time. A lot of people have more free time than ever, but it's a judgment they feel from just doing nothing.
Yeah.
And being themselves, relaxing, resting, that's causing all of their suffering and misery currently.
Mm.
So I'm very, very glad that this is a topic we decided to discuss today, baby.
Me too,
I think it's much needed.
One thing that's coming to my heart right now that I wanted to share, because I feel like this is a really good way of thinking about your balance within yourself. So when I was more in my masculine energy, when I would think about like a hard conversation that I had to have with someone, I would strategize like word for word what I was going to say. I would literally rehearse my script that I would say to this person. This is what they would teach you in like a Stanford negotiation class, right? Where it's like, how do you set the frame for the conversation? What's the opening sentence that you give? You know, what the first thing out of your mouth is most important. What is it? And now you're living from this place of the mind where you're trying to control how an interaction goes, right? You're holding on real tight. You have no margin for surrender or flow or let's see what happens, right? That's a masculine way of approaching a hard conversation or a relationship, right? What I have come to do now that I've become more balanced, I used to do that. Now that I've become more balanced in my feminine energy, whenever someone approaches me to talk about something, I don't prepare for it at all. I don't run scripts in the shower and pretend like I'm talking to this person. I just show up and speak from the heart and trust that because I have such a strong connection to my own body, my own heart, my own energy, that the words will find me at the perfect time and that there's not a way that I can mess it up because you can't mess up what's meant for you. So as I've become more balanced in my feminine energy, I have dropped all of the preparation around relationships. I don't have to show up perfectly. I don't have to knock that conversation out of the park by coming with the most brilliant opening line. I don't have to rehearse how I talk to someone before I meet them. I can simply show up, be myself, and have full trust that I will find the perfect word, the perfect moment, and the right emotions at the perfect time. So instead of saying, how can I show up best in this conversation? It's how do I want to feel in this conversation? How do I want the other person to feel? I want them to feel calm. I want them to feel loved. I want them to feel seen. Great. I will show up in a way that creates that. That's the frame that I'm setting. I just want to give that as an example because I think that's a very tangible thing that over masculine energy people would relate to. There's so much preparation and stakes, and I can't mess this up when you're overbalanced in that energy. And that is the biggest thing that I've noticed, how it's trickled down in my relationships. I just feel way more comfortable to say what's on my heart with no judgment of myself.
I think that's only possible when you realize that you're going to be fine no matter what.
Yeah.
We put so much weight on a certain meeting or presentation or date because we feel as if, if this meeting doesn't go well, they're not going to consider me for the promotion. And if I'm not worthy of the promotion, they're probably going to not even think about me for the job next year. I may get fired. If I get fired, my social status is going to go down. If my social status go down, I'm not going to find the person who wants to date me.
Yeah.
If I don't want to date me, I'm going to be sad. If I'm sad, then I'm not going to this and that. And then it's a fear of death. It's a fear of becoming what we're really capable of being. And so thankfully over time, you've been able to do this work, the exact work we're talking about, that has allowed you to increase the capacity of love you have for yourself. And so you know that whatever happens in any interaction going forward, you're going to be okay. Because
you can't lose.
You can't mess
it up.
Because your gas tank's already full of love for yourself.
Exactly.
If the people you're going to talk to in this meeting or on this date don't like you, so be it.
Who cares?
Who cares? You like yourself.
Exactly.
We're trying to get you to that point.
And you also should not want to win someone over as a woman. No, the man's trying to win you over, baby. You are not trying to win someone over. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to earn. You simply show up and you choose. Do you like the man? That's the question you need to be asking yourself. A lot of men are going to like you, especially when you're in energy where you have nothing to prove.
Women have all the power. Men have just convinced them they don't.
Woo!
That is the world we live in. And there's also things out of our control, like they're inflating the currency so that both men and women in that family dynamic have to work to pay the bills and all those other things that's taking place. Mm-hmm. But let's not forget, women create humans.
Yeah.
Women create human beings. Without them, none of this exists. They're the most powerful beings in this world. But they have been misled to forget that.
Absolutely.
They have been misled to believe in the fear, to believe they must be a certain way to be worthy. All that is complete bullshit.
They have to earn their worth rather than just embody it.
All they have to do is just be.
It's about returning back to the natural state.
Exactly.
I love it, baby.
I love it too.
I'm so happy to talk about this with you today, baby.
Me too. I think it's much needed.
Yee!
The more that we understand this topic for our own selves and own lives, the happier we feel.
Absolutely.
And we can't be alone in that.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you for everything you shared.
Of course, baby. Thank you for joining us today, y'all. We are so excited to have you for episode 4, diving into masculine and feminine dynamics. Of course, as this continues to unfold, I'm sure we'll have a lot more float to our mind and heart, but we are so thankful for you joining us today. And let us know what resonates with you. We would love to talk about absolutely anything that stood out where you're like, wait, I have more questions about that, or say more here. That's why we're here. We are here to simply speak on things that we find interesting, and especially that you find interesting. So thank you so much for being here, lovers. We're so appreciative of you, and we love you so much.
We unconditionally love you all. See you next week.
Bye.